Replacing the drive belt on the Bowflex C7. 1. Unplug the AC adapter from the wall outlet and the machine. 2. Fully turn the resistance knob clockwise to lock the flywheel in place. 3. Using a flathead screwdriver, remove the threaded cap from the right crank arm. 4. Use a 16mm socket and wrench to remove the flange nut from the right crank arm. 5. Thread the crank puller into the crank arm. 6. Using a 17mm or adjustable wrench, turn the inner portion clockwise until the crank arm slides off. 7. Remove the outer belt cover hardware and belt cover. Set cover and hardware aside. 8. Remove the 4 screws holding the fender in place and set the fender and hardware aside. 9. Fully turn the resistance knob counterclockwise to the minimum resistance setting. 10. Using a small 2 to 3mm pin/punch or small nail and hammer, gently push the roll pin out of the collar and resistance adjustment shaft. 11. Turn the resistance knob clockwise to increase the resistance until the tip of the adjustment shaft comes out of the resistance nut. 12. Remove the 3 screws holding the resistance sensor in place and set them aside. Allow the sensor to hang from the cable without damaging the cable. 13. After noting the position of the flat segments, remove the resistance sensor magnet. 14. Remove the brake arm by using a 5mm hex wrench and 10mm wrench to remove the pivot bolt and nut. Set parts aside. 15. On the left side of the bike, pull out the rubber grommet and carefully disconnect the speed sensor connector. 16. Mark the flywheel axle position to assist with belt tension later. Then loosen and remove the flywheel axle nut, outer retainer nut, and inner retainer nut from the tensioner. Repeat on the other side. Remove tensioners. (17) Carefully slide the flywheel rearward and remove the drive belt. (18) Place the drive belt over the front pulley and carefully install the flywheel into the brackets. 19. Install the tensioners and start the inner retainer nuts on both sides. Carefully rotate the drive belt onto the rear pulley. Then tighten the retainer nuts so the axle is positioned in line with the mark made earlier. (20) Recheck the drive belt tensioner and adjust the tensioner nuts until the belt has about a 1/4 inch deflection or can be twisted 90 degrees. Then tighten the flywheel axle nuts. (21) Connect the speed sensor connector and carefully push it into the upright. Then install the rubber grommet without pinching the wire. 22. Install the drive belt cover and hardware. (23) Install the brake arm and hardware. Make sure the brake arm moves freely. (24) Install the resistance sensor magnet, making sure to align the flat segments in the same orientation as before, and then install the resistance sensor. (25) Line up the holes in the resistance nut and adjustment shaft and gently install the roll pin until it is installed through both parts. Test that the resistance knob moves freely. 26. Install the fender. (27) Install the right crank arm, making sure it is oriented 180 degrees from the left crank arm. Fully tighten the flange nut and install the crank cap. #28. Push power cord connector into frame inlet on bike. It is tight and requires a firm push. Make sure it is fully seated with none of the metal portion showing. Reconnect power to the wall outlet.